Customer engine here, Mark. This is your engine. It's a Saito FA45 Special. Externally it looked really good. It felt really good. I was not, as we discussed on the phone, I was not going to disassemble this engine. I mentioned that I was only going to open up the rear cover and inspect it. Inside the rear cover doesn't look too bad, but I think I will go ahead and just tear this thing down because the choke mechanism was kind of gummed up. This does look fine in here. I think these bearings are okay. I can replace them if you like, but there's a little bit of caramel color on the inside here that, yeah, heck, for that matter, might just be able to be wiped out. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know that this engine really requires any more tear down than this. In my opinion, it doesn't. Looks fine to me. I think I'm just going to stop it here. I'll put some 3-in-1 oil in this and loosen up any of the other oil, and then I think the run will actually clean the inside of this engine up. So let me just pull this piston out here real quick so you can see what the top of the piston looks like. See, very little run time, if any, on, well, not if any, there is obviously run time on it, but not much. Ring is free. Valves, faces look clean. They don't even have any carbon buildup on them. So this engine really doesn't require any further disassembly than this. I'll clean the outside a little bit with a toothbrush and LAs, but I mean, for the most part, it's really not even that dirty. The only other thing I noted that's odd is that Saito 45s never came with this double nut thing. This is something that was developed after the 45 Special came out, so that's not stock to this engine. But other than that, this engine's in fantastic shape, so we'll be running it here shortly. Okay, Saito FA120S. Mark, this is your engine you sent to me to have me investigate. To me, this engine looks brand new. I mean, if you look inside at that exhaust valve stem, well, the intake is always pretty much going to look clean, but if you look at that exhaust valve stem, I see no reason or evidence that this engine has ever been run. I'm going to remove the rear cover real quick and take a peek in there, and if everything looks perfect, then I'm not doing anything to this engine other than running it, setting the valves, lash, and then putting it back in the box. Yeah, this engine is brand new, so there's absolutely no need for disassembly of this engine whatsoever. So I'll just check the valve lash, and if you want, I can run it, but I don't even have to do that. I mean, look at this gasket. This little bit of stuff here, that's grease from the connecting rod, because Saito in their later years has been putting a little bit of grease on these connecting rods or the crank pin. So that right there is evidence that this engine's never been run, because that little bit of grease was there, and I can still see the grease on the connecting rod. If this had been run and there'd been fuel gone through there, that would be gone. So this is a new engine. Okay, Mark, here's your Saito FA56 engine. This is a nice looking engine. It came in a black and gold box, kind of telling me the vintage if it's current with that box. It's got the metal throttle arm, but it's not the original 56, because I believe the original 56 might have had this vent on the rear cover, but I don't know for sure. This engine looks really good externally, but it's got a stuck tappet or something, because it has a plug installed and no compression whatsoever. So something in the valve train isn't moving, and this actually feels pretty rough. So this one's going to be a complete tear down and inspect. Okay, rocker covers are off. The top of this thing looks pristine, like it's never seen anything happen before. And actually, I do have rocker arm movement. So both valves, everything is moving as it should, so why it would have no compression is beyond me. It might actually be a fairly new engine. Okay, rear cover screws out. Now the only thing that looks like it's been run maybe is because there's a little bit of gunk kind of in here, but I mean this rear cover pulls off real nice. No. Okay, maybe one run. That's definitely fuel residue, but I mean the gasket is completely dry and free. So what I think is the deal with this engine, since it has very little runtime, I'm going to put some oil in here and get these bearings wet. Actually, I'm going to need to put some in here to get this front bearing. But I think what the deal is with this is, since the valve train is working fine, I think it's the ring might be compressed in the groove. And if that's the case, that won't require a complete disassembly. That'll just mean pulling that thing out. So I've got some oil going in here now. And I'll just have to pull the head off real quick and see. Okay, head screws out. Let's pull this head off. Let's see what's going on here. Well, the ring is not compressed and it's free. You know what? This could just be a matter of the fact that the valve lash isn't set properly. So let's just put this thing back together and do a quick valve lash check, and this engine should be good to go. So should have checked it first, but I didn't. It was just the valve lash that wasn't right on this engine. It was set in such a way that the intake valve was way loose and this one was closed, so that basically you weren't getting any compression because the valves weren't sealing like they should. So I've got it back together. This engine can be run. How it's such a low runtime engine, but how this prop hub is so marred up is beyond me, but I'll see if I can kind of clean that up a little bit. But this engine is ready to run.